Morning, folks. What I'm doing right now is driving down the road with the 6430 at approximately 8 miles per hour, maybe a little bit less. Why am I doing that, you might ask? Because I'm taking the Draper up to the north machine shed to put it away for the winter so that we have room in our home sheds for a few other things that we want to get in before the big snowfall this Sunday, or potential big snowfall this Sunday. Nobody really knows what's going to happen yet, but it looks like it might be more than just an inch. So we want to get some things under roof. And I'm going really slow because the roads are snow covered already. And I'm trying to keep this Draper that I've got nice and cleaned up from getting all grimed up on my way to the storage shed. So I thought now might be a really good time to share a few of my thoughts about this new piece of equipment that we just got this year. We've never had a Draper before. We have always ran an auger platform previously, and I did notice some differences for sure. So let's talk about that. Can you say that? Is that copyrighted? Sorry, Rhett, Link, my bad.
We started this channel to share our love of agriculture, to show you what we do every day at our full-time farming jobs and on our own little ranch. I hope you enjoy it.
Here's a fun fact. At my current travel speed of approximately 8 miles per hour, if I were driving this piece of equipment through the Hazleton Fairbank area right now, I could possibly be in danger of being passed by a horse and buggy. Depending on length of travel and urgency of destination, the average Amish buggy travels between 6 and 10 miles per hour. If you're going to have a really long bean head, I would highly advocate getting one of these all-wheel steer rigs made by Unverfirth. If you watch this trailer, you watch the back wheels actually turn to follow the path of the front wheels. And I gotta say, that is unbelievable. You can get in and out of some very tight little driveways pulling a 35-foot bean head, which is actually pretty long. So I would highly advocate having an all-wheel steer trailer underneath your bean head. So first of all, what's the difference? What makes a Draper a Draper? The difference, the name is let me try again. All right, so what's the deal? What is the difference? Well, first of all, what is the same? A Draper has a cutter bar made up of sickle sections and sickle section guards. An auger platform has a cutter bar made up of sickle sections and sickle section guards. A Draper has a reel, which is this big black rolling basket piece of equipment with fingers sticking off of it to help feed the crop in. An auger platform has a reel to help feed the crop into the head. And those are the two biggest similarities. Once the crop is cut and knocked over with the reel, that's where the real differences start. When the crop lands on the auger platform head, it lands on this solid metal sheet. And then it's the responsibility of this auger in the back to move the crop to the center. One thing that happens when conditions are not ideal, as they often are not, whether you have short beans or whether they're just a little bit tough, sometimes the beans will want to pile up on the head until there's a big enough pile that the reel squeezes them hard against the auger and they all come shooting to the center in a big wad. And that's when you got to watch out for plugging your combine. This often happens towards the end of the day when the dew starts to set in and the beans just do not want to slide on the platform. So they'll make a big pile until they all come shooting in at once. And that's usually when you have to quit. They'll start piling up, they'll start feeding in wads, and they will start kicking back up over the reel and spitting back over the front of the head. And that's when you know you gotta quit. The Draper, on the other hand, has this rubber belt behind the cutter bar that the beans fall over onto and feed uniformly to the center onto this other belt that pushes them back into the drum and feeds them into the combine. This creates a scenario where the crop has no choice but to feed evenly and smoothly to the center of the head once it falls over into the head. It also means that you don't have to rely so heavily upon your reel to throw the crop back into the auger, because all it has to do is make sure that the beans don't tip over forwards. It just ensures that they tip backwards into the head. And so you're not having to run your reel quite as low or quite as fast, and the reel can actually really damage the beans and kind of beat some of the beans out of the pods if you're running it too aggressively. So that is definitely another benefit.
Now here's a fun fact. We were actually able to run the same ground speed with our 35-foot Draper that we used to run with our 25-foot auger platform. And I would say that that was just due to the fact that the crop feeds in so much more uniformly with the Draper.
One potential drawback to the Draper is rocks. If you get a rock on that belt, it will make its way to the center of the head and it will make its way into the combine. They do have a rock dam right behind the cutter bar, which is this incline right here to kind of keep rocks from sliding up and onto the head. Some rocks will make it past the rock dam. Many rocks will be stopped by the rock dam and they'll just push out in front of you. One of the most noticeable differences is that auger platforms are red and Drapers are green. Probably because red stands for stop, meaning you're going to have to stop a lot earlier as the dew sets in the evening.
All joking aside, we were able to go about 3 hours later on average than the guys that had auger platforms in our area. What finally would stop us at the end of the night would be the cutter bar would start to push piles of corn stalks when the ground got too wet.
So you may be asking yourself, why doesn't everybody have a Draper? Is there any downside? Well, here's one. Just looking on tractorhouse.com at prices, I found on purpose the newest, most expensive regular auger platform that I could find in the 35-foot width. It's a 2017 John Deere 635F, $37,500. That's in Grinnell, Iowa. Now, that's an outrageous price for an auger machine. Most of them are going to be older. Here's a 2010 for $19,900. That's going to be pretty standard. You go up here and flip over to Flex Drapers, and here is a 2017 John Deere, same width, same approximate amount of acres. The auger machine had 2,000. This one has 1,700. They're asking $74,900 for this machine. In fact, here's an older one, a 2016 with 4,000 hours on it. That auger machine had 2,000, remember? Not hours, acres. And they're asking $73,000 for this one. So you can buy a really nice auger machine for $20,000. You want a really nice Draper, you're going to be spending $75,000 to $80,000. That's just the way it goes. You might find some used ones out there for $50,000 to $60,000, but as a rule, Drapers are very expensive. Well, I just got done washing the grain cart out in the snow. It was a real joy. There was about 2 bushels of corn just frozen into a big block of ice right down in the bottom of it. And I couldn't get it chipped apart. I just had to wash it to death. It finally came apart. So now I'm putzing up the road with the cart, trying not to get it dirty, on my way to the same shed to put it away. So to wrap up my thoughts about this Draper conversation, is it worth it? Absolutely, I would say. But what it really comes down to is, first of all, can you afford to trade for a Draper? And second of all, if you can, I mean, how can you put a price on being able to run another 2.5, maybe 3 hours at night and get started earlier in the morning with uniform feeding without plugging the combine? Some years, that's a big deal. Like this year, when you don't know if you're going to get another chance to get in and cut beans. Some years it's not that big of a deal, but every day that you're not combining beans is also a day that you're combining corn. So the added productivity and being more gentle on the beans, not losing so many from beating them out of the pods with the reel before they get into the combine, it just all adds up to a big win, in my opinion. We really loved it this year. So that's my verdict. What's yours? Do you have a Draper or an auger machine? And what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear. Go ahead and leave me a comment.
and subscribe if you would. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.